beauty is often celebrated as a blessing, a golden ticket to admiration, privilege, and power. Society teaches us that attractive women are the most fortunate, desired, and envied. Yet beneath this glittering surface hides a darker reality. Beauty is not a gift, but a curse. The more attractive a woman is, the more likely she is to suffer mentally. Why? Because beauty enslaves. It turns a woman into a prisoner of other people's attention, forces her to rely on validation, and traps her in a fragile power that fades with time. The world surrounds her with endless temptation and choices, yet leaves her hollow inside. Her ego swells under constant admiration, only to collapse when reality denies her expectations. And worst of all, though she is never alone, she is perpetually isolated, unable to know who truly values her beyond her appearance. To understand why attractive women are mentally ill, one must strip away illusions and confront the brutal truth hidden behind the mask of beauty. Number 1. Relentless attention creates illusions and pressure. The first and most obvious reason why attractive women often suffer mentally lies in the relentless attention they receive. From the moment a girl shows signs of beauty, the world begins to treat her differently. Strangers stare, classmates whisper, and adults make subtle comments about how lucky she is to look that way. On the surface, this seems flattering, but in reality, it is the foundation of a psychological prison. A beautiful woman grows up learning that her value is not measured by her intelligence, her kindness, or her character, but by the way others respond to her appearance. Every compliment, every look of admiration, and every jealous glance from another woman becomes the mirror in which she evaluates herself. She is conditioned to live not from within, but from the outside in. This constant surveillance creates a dangerous dependency. Imagine a drug addict who cannot function without his daily dose. For the attractive woman, attention is that drug. When she enters a room and all eyes turn to her, she feels alive, powerful, almost divine. But when the stares fade, when people are indifferent, when she is ignored, she begins to feel invisible, worthless, even panicked. Her sense of self is tethered to the gaze of the crowd, and without it, her identity crumbles. It is not an exaggeration to say that many attractive women are slaves to attention in the same way tyrants are slaves to power. Both appear strong, yet both are secretly weak, dependent, and afraid of losing control. Furthermore, constant attention is not always positive. Along with admiration comes envy, judgment, and hostility. Attractive women attract not only suitors but also predators and rivals. Every glance is not a compliment. Sometimes it is an evaluation, a comparison, a condemnation. A beautiful woman is dissected by the eyes of society, as if she were a public object. She cannot simply exist. She must perform, maintain, and prove. Even small imperfections, a bad hair day, a few pounds gained, a sign of aging, become magnified under the microscope of attention. While ordinary women may pass unnoticed, the attractive woman lives in a spotlight where the smallest flaw feels catastrophic. Over time, this creates a psychological paradox. The very thing that gives her power, her beauty, and the attention it brings, becomes the source of her anxiety. She cannot live without it, but she also suffers because of it. She desires the gaze of others, yet resents being constantly watched. She wants admiration, yet fears the judgment that always accompanies it. This push and pull tears at her mind until her emotions become unstable. What begins as pride gradually turns into insecurity. What begins as confidence turns into obsession. What begins as admiration from others becomes self-loathing when she realizes her value has been reduced to nothing more than her appearance. This is why attention is not a blessing, but a curse for attractive women. It shapes them into fragile creatures who cannot exist without external validation. And once that validation falters, when youth fades, when society moves on, when someone younger and more beautiful appears, they collapse under the weight of an identity built entirely on the unstable foundation of other people's eyes. Number 2, the fragile nature of beauty's power. The second reason why attractive women are often mentally unstable is because their power, which seems so absolute in youth, is fragile and fleeting. Beauty functions as a form of currency in human interaction, granting privileges that others must work years to earn. A beautiful woman may enter a room and receive instant deference, attention, and opportunities. Doors open for her, people smile at her, and favors are extended without request. She learns quickly that the world bends more easily when she stands in it. This early access to privilege creates the illusion that she holds real, lasting power. Yet the foundation of that power is not intelligence, strength, or achievement. It is the temporary glow of her appearance. And like all things that depend on time, it is doomed to erode. The cruel truth is that beauty is not stable property. It depreciates with age, with stress, with the slightest neglect. Unlike wealth or knowledge, which can be preserved or even expanded, beauty is like ice melting in the sun. It may shine for a moment, but it is destined to vanish. The young attractive woman basks in the admiration of the crowd, but she carries within her an unspoken fear, the knowledge that every day brings her closer to decline. Even if she never admits it aloud, the mirror whispers this truth to her daily. Every new wrinkle, every small imperfection, every sign of time is not merely a physical change, but a reminder that her power is evaporating. This realization corrodes her mental stability because she knows that the very foundation of her identity and influence is slipping through her fingers. This fragility makes her power fundamentally different from other forms of power. A man who builds wealth, skill, or authority can maintain or even grow it over time. His influence may expand as he matures, but the beautiful woman's influence peaks early and diminishes without her consent. Her youth and attractiveness give her leverage she never earned, yet she pays for it later with desperation and fear. The tragic irony is that she becomes addicted to a type of power that she cannot preserve. Like a monarch who knows her throne is temporary, she rules with both arrogance and terror, always glancing over her shoulder at the younger rivals who will inevitably replace her. This creates a psychological double bind. On the one hand, she is treated as if she were extraordinary, given privileges as if she were royalty. On the other hand, she knows deep down that none of it is truly hers. It was never earned, never secured, never guaranteed. The foundation of her superiority is external, unstable, and temporary. This knowledge haunts her. She is like a soldier armed with a weapon that she knows will break in the middle of battle. Outwardly, she may act confident, glamorous, untouchable, but inwardly she trembles with the fear of expiration. The audience may admire her shine, but she feels the shadow of her decline, even in her brightest moment. Thus, the very thing that elevates her also destroys her. Beauty gives her power early, but robs her of peace for the rest of her life. She is never free to simply exist. She must constantly preserve, enhance, and defend her appearance against the natural march of time. Unlike other sources of power that grow with effort, her currency only diminishes no matter what she does. And so, the attractive woman finds herself trapped in a tragic cycle, celebrated for what she cannot control, terrified of losing what she cannot keep. This fragile form of power, both intoxicating and perishable, is one of the deepest reasons why beauty often leads not to happiness, but to mental suffering. Number 3. The trap of endless choices and temptations. The third reason attractive women often suffer mentally is the paradox of abundance. They are cursed not by scarcity, but by excess. While ordinary people struggle to secure opportunities, relationships, or attention, the attractive woman is surrounded by them. She has more suitors, more offers, more invitations, and more temptations than she could ever process. At first glance, this seems like a privilege. But in reality, it is a trap. Too many choices do not lead to happiness. They lead to confusion, indecision, and regret. For the beautiful woman, life becomes an endless marketplace of possibilities, and this constant surplus corrodes her ability to choose wisely. The psychology of choice is ruthless. When confronted with too many options, the human mind becomes paralyzed, fearing the loss of what is not chosen. For an attractive woman, every relationship feels replaceable. Every opportunity seems disposable. Why commit to one man when there are 10 others waiting? Why settle for stability when excitement is always within reach? This creates a mindset of perpetual dissatisfaction. No matter what she chooses, she imagines she could have had something better. And so, even while surrounded by abundance, she feels empty, restless, and unfulfilled. Her curse is not that she lacks options, but that she cannot anchor herself in any of them. Worse still, the excess of choice attracts not only genuine opportunities, but also toxic ones. Alongside men who admire her, sincerely come predators who see her as prey, opportunists who wish to exploit her beauty, and rivals who want to bring her down. The sheer number of interactions she must navigate makes it almost inevitable that she will stumble into destructive relationships. What appears to be a blessing, the constant availability of attention, becomes a battlefield of manipulation, deceit, and exploitation. Each misstep damages her trust, and over time she begins to see the world as hostile, unstable, and unsafe. The tragedy is that abundance erodes appreciation. A woman who always has new admirers at her feet rarely learns to value loyalty or depth. She begins to treat people as interchangeable, cycling through friendships, lovers, and opportunities without commitment. Yet this behavior eventually backfires because she never fully invests, she never fully receives. She remains perpetually unsatisfied, like a queen who owns 1,000 jewels, but feels poorer with each new one, because none truly fulfills her. The abundance of choice becomes the abundance of emptiness. In the end, the attractive woman's greatest weakness is that she does not know how to say enough. She chases novelty, not realizing that novelty itself is a poison. The more she indulges in options, the less capable she becomes of genuine happiness. The paradox of her condition is brutal. She has everything, yet nothing satisfies her. Surrounded by endless offers, she drowns in her own abundance. And so, what the world envies most, her access to limitless opportunities, becomes a silent engine of her mental illness. Number 4. A distorted ego under constant admiration. The fourth reason attractive women often suffer mentally is the distortion of the self, the warping of the ego under constant admiration and privilege. When a woman is beautiful, the world bends around her in ways that ordinary people never experience. Strangers are kinder, doors open faster, mistakes are forgiven more easily. She becomes accustomed to being treated not as an equal, but as someone elevated, someone special. At first, this feels empowering, but over time, it plants the seeds of a psychological deformity. She begins to confuse admiration with worth and indulgence with truth. This distortion creates a dangerous illusion of superiority. Surrounded by people who flatter her, compete for her attention, and constantly affirm her beauty, she starts to believe she is fundamentally different, above the rules that govern everyone else. Her ego swells unnaturally, like a balloon stretched too thin. But the larger it grows, the weaker it becomes, because it is built on unstable ground. She does not build her self-worth through effort, resilience, or character. It is handed to her unearned, like counterfeit currency. And because she did not earn it, she does not know how to preserve it. When reality inevitably contradicts her inflated sense of self, the result is catastrophic: insecurity, rage, and despair. This warped ego also disrupts her relationships. Believing she deserves constant admiration, she becomes intolerant of criticism, hypersensitive to rejection, and easily threatened by rivals. Small slights feel like great betrayals, and normal disagreements feel like attacks on her identity. As a result, she either isolates herself, convinced no one is good enough, or clings desperately to those who continue to feed her ego. In both cases, her interactions become shallow and unstable, preventing the growth of authentic bonds. The irony is cruel. The more her ego inflates, the less capable she becomes of genuine intimacy, because she sees people not as equals, but as mirrors reflecting her fragile self-image. The danger of this distortion is that it masks weakness as strength. Outwardly, she appears confident, glamorous, even untouchable, but inwardly, her sense of self is brittle, cracking under the slightest pressure. Every wrinkle, every moment of being ignored, every comparison to someone younger or more beautiful threatens to shatter her. She lives in fear of exposure, the moment when the world will no longer treat her as special, when the illusion will collapse. This fear gnaws at her constantly, a silent reminder that her identity is not anchored within, but scattered across the shifting opinions of others. Thus, the beautiful woman becomes trapped in a paradox of ego. She believes herself powerful, yet her power is fragile. She believes herself unique, yet her uniqueness is shared by countless others who will replace her in time. She believes herself adored, yet she is ultimately unloved for who she truly is. Her ego, distorted by constant indulgence, becomes both her shield and her prison. And when the prison walls finally crack, what emerges is not the strong, confident woman the world imagined, but a vulnerable, unstable soul collapsing under the weight of her own illusions. Number 5. Loneliness, hidden within the crowd. The fifth, and perhaps most tragic reason attractive women often suffer mentally is the paradox of loneliness amid constant company. To outsiders, the beautiful woman seems surrounded by admirers, friends, and opportunities. She is never physically alone. Her phone is full of messages. Her presence always attracts attention. and she rarely walks into a room without someone seeking her approval. Yet beneath this appearance of abundance lies a deep void. She cannot tell who truly values her for herself and who values only her beauty. This uncertainty corrodes trust and isolates her, even when she is surrounded by people. The problem is that beauty distorts relationships. It acts as a magnet, pulling people in for reasons that have little to do with authenticity. Men approach her because they desire her looks, not her mind. Women gravitate toward her to bask in reflected attention or to compete against her. Even professional opportunities are often tainted. Doors open not because of merit, but because of appearance. Over time, this reality teaches the attractive woman a cruel lesson. She is wanted, but not truly known. Admired, but not understood. Desired, but not loved. This creates a cycle of shallow connections. Since so many relationships are based on surface attraction, they lack depth and durability. Conversations remain superficial. Friendships often collapse under envy, and romances are plagued by insecurity and suspicion. Every compliment begins to feel transactional. Every gesture of affection feels contaminated by ulterior motives. Even when someone genuinely cares for her, she doubts it, poisoned by the memory of countless others who only saw her as an object of pleasure or status. The result is that her heart builds walls. She becomes distant, guarded, unable to open herself fully, because to be vulnerable is to risk discovering that she was never truly valued. Paradoxically, the more people surround her, the lonelier she becomes. Ordinary individuals may have fewer relationships, but at least some of them are genuine. The beautiful woman, by contrast, drowns in counterfeit affection. She cannot tell the difference between authenticity and performance, between love and exploitation. The stage lights that constantly shine on her also blind her from seeing who stands beside her sincerely. And so, she performs the role of the adored, envied woman, all while her inner self withers from starvation of true connection. This loneliness is not temporary. It is structural. As long as her beauty remains, it will continue to distort her interactions. And when her beauty fades, the false admirers vanish, leaving behind a deeper void, the realization that she never cultivated genuine bonds. She was never loved for her essence, only for her mask. This revelation is devastating, for it strikes at the core of human need, the desire to be seen, understood, and valued for who one truly is. Thus, the greatest tragedy of the attractive woman is not the loss of beauty itself, but the emptiness it conceals. She can command attention, inspire desire, and attract endless company, yet she cannot escape the crushing loneliness of never being truly known. This paradox, loneliness amid abundance, is the silent poison that eats away at her sanity, leaving her with a beautiful face and an abandoned soul. In the end, beauty is not the blessing society pretends it to be. It is a silent curse. It grants women early privileges, but those privileges rot into chains that suffocate their minds. The attention they cannot live without, the fragile power that fades with time, the endless choices that paralyze them, the distorted ego that betrays them, and the loneliness hidden beneath constant company. Together, these forces corrode their sanity. What appears to the world as fortune is, in truth, a slow descent into psychological ruin. The tragedy of the attractive woman is not that she is admired, but that she is admired for the wrong reasons. She can command desire, but never guarantee love. She can captivate eyes, but never secure souls. Behind the beautiful mask lies the cruelest truth. That beauty, the very thing the world envies, is the very thing that leaves her empty, unstable, and alone.